Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome to the HR Morning Show, episode number 45. That means we're 5
Wow.
episodes away from going live every single week for a year. It's pretty amazing, right,
That's
guys?
That's
awesome.
crazy.
That's awesome.
Well, hello.
45 for the 45-year-old. It's nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
An episode for every year for the 45-year-olds. I love it. Well, welcome, everybody. Before we get started here, I want to welcome everybody to the HR Morning Show, the number one spot. That's right. You heard it. Number one spot
Number
for
one.
everything HR. We're not number 2 and number 3. We are number 1. This is a live show. We're all live here.
We
We've
are.
got special guests today, which we'll get to in just a second, but we're all live. So get in the chat, say hi, tell us who you are, where you're from, how your Memorial Day weekend was, if you celebrated that. But we're a part of Purple Acorn. You can find all of our shows at purpleacornnetwork.com, pan.com, no, purpleacornnetwork.com. Follow us on LinkedIn. We want to get to 2,000 followers. We love followers. We love dopamine. We love likes and comments. So like, comment, follow us, and you can follow us across platforms. We're on YouTube. We're a real podcast. We're on Instagram. We're everywhere. We're even on TikTok. That one's for you, Danielle. But let's get in there. So get in the chat, say hi to us, engage as we go along. And we got a special guest here, Danielle. Who is this below us here on the
Oh,
screen? Below us on the screen.
Who's this bald guy
I
down
am
below?
yes, I'm below everyone. I'm on the
This is
downslide of my career, so I'm falling
You're
quick.
humble. You're
this
just
is our
very humble.
45-year-old, our resident 45-year-old.
Thank you, Danielle.
Yeah. This is
Good
John
morning.
Baldino. Who doesn't know who he is?
Thank you. Thanks for having me back. I'm glad that a couple weeks ago when I got to stop in, I didn't ruin everything. So appreciate it. Thanks for letting me
Almost. We
come back.
almost had a tragic situation on our hands, but
Nah,
we saved it.
good times. Thanks for having me back. I'm glad to be here.
John, talk more about your background.
So this is like some framed artwork. I think that's up here. So yeah, I've been doing HR for a little bit. I have the privilege of running an organization called Humoriso. We will be 13 years August 1st,
Ooh,
Huh.
Gen Z.
crazy.
Happy bar mitzvah.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm telling you, it's pretty cool to kind of put something together like that. So very fortunate to have awesome people that work on the team, some friends of Purple Acorn Network as well that are here. So yeah, had the privilege of doing this for, it'll be actually 35 years this September for me. So
Wow.
crazy.
So you've
Crazy.
been doing it since you're 10. That's pretty
You
incredible.
are the best. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm giving you a lot of sweetness up front and then
And then later on, that's okay.
Yeah.
That's all right. It's okay.
What inspired you to start Humoriso?
When I was serving as VP of HR for a national bank, and so when I'll go all the way back. When I started in personnel, everything was in house. We printed checks in house. Major medical was done in house. Everything in the late 80s was done that way. And through the years, as you all know, everything, so many pieces got outsourced. Software came into play, brokers, all kinds of stuff happened. And so about 15 years ago, I started to see, I think a lot more HR support was going to be needed for small to mid market to remain competitive. And I took a shot and it worked out.
And how big is the Humoriso team now?
There are 34 of us. I think I should probably cheat. I think it's 34 of us on staff at Humoriso, which is fun. And they're all over the place. Our corporate offices are in Vero Beach in Florida. And then we have a regional office outside of Philly in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. And everybody else is all over the place. So it's pretty fun.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love it.
Thank you. 34.
Quite an accomplishment.
Welcome back. 34 people, 13 years. I mean, that's amazing. I love that.
Thank you.
Like, what are the stats on because one thing that doesn't get talked about a lot is like the stats of like how many businesses fail in like the first few years. It's like 90% of it. You know?
Yeah, within the first 2 years or something like that, it is in the 90s. It's funny too, because when I started Humoriso, people said to me that I was doing it the wrong way. Well-meaning people, but I was doing it the wrong way because I didn't label anything Baldino. And they were like, everybody knows you. You should just do it that way. And I'm like, yeah, but I feel like if I do it, John Baldino Consulting, it feels really small. And I knew I wanted to build something bigger. right? Not that I'm going to be KPMG or Ernst and Young or whatever, Mercer, but I felt like it would be too small. So
The lesson there is just don't ever listen to people.
yeah, don't listen to anyone's advice. Exactly. No.
I do find it interesting though. Whenever like I don't know what it is, but I think it's just starting businesses. It's like everybody comes out of the woodwork. It's almost
Yeah.
like when you have kids, it's the same thing. It's like everyone wants to give you the advice, like don't do this, do this, do this. It's just like,
Yes.
there's not one way to do this, right? Like there's probably multiple ways to be
So many
successful.
ways. If you think
Lots
about
of
like all the decisions you have to make in a day alone, it's like it's nuts. And then you have everyone telling you what to do or how to do it.
And we almost can't help ourselves. Honestly,
Yeah.
like I'll even find myself starting to give advice, and I'm like, whoa, I'm so sorry. You didn't ask for this. Let me shut up. Yeah.
You're very good at asking for permission to give advice. I just want to say that's which
Yeah.
is not everybody asks for, like you said, a lot of times it can be unsolicited, and it is very interesting.
Yeah. Yes, but well, I come from a good family of people who like to offer advice without being asked for advice. My family's great at that. What? You're 35? You're not married? What's wrong with you? Yeah, don't start that. That's not the way to start.
Like I've been
Oh,
in
that's
HR since I was
relatable.
10. Don't blame me. All right. Well, John, welcome to the show. We got a jam-packed show
Yes.
today. Look, that chat is looking empty and sad right now. So, like,
I
if you're
know.
out there,
I think people might be feeling empty and sad right
if
now.
you're out there and hungover, get into the chat. This is a cure for your hungoverness. Is that even a word? Get in the chat. Tell us who you are. We want to know how you're doing. Say hi to John. Say hi to Danielle. Make fun of me. Do something. Okay, get in the chat. But I think we got some news we want to cover. So why don't we roll this first news segment here?
Let's do it. All right. We got our news. So it is official. We're going back to the office.
Wow, wow, wow.
So in this week's story, we're talking about Gen Z. We are willing to forego remote work to secure jobs, which makes a lot of sense. In my opinion, this is kind of an indicator of the pendulum swinging
Yeah.
back, and the young people feeling the financial pressure. Is that Joel playing a little sad violin?
That was the pendulum swinging.
Yeah. His stiff arm going like this. You couldn't tell that was.
It did look like a violin.
Like, are you playing a violin for me?
I'll play you a little violin. How's that? There
Okay,
you go.
thank
There you
you.
go.
I think I need it. No, yeah. I think this is the pendulum swinging. I do think, though, that the whole narrative around young people not wanting to go to the office is kind of backwards. Like, I think Gen Z was one of the generations, at least 2 years after the pandemic, that really was craving that in-person experience rather than remote work. Of course, you have everyone under the sun of Gen Z kind of having different opinions. That's what we're known for. But I do think that overall, we want the inner office experience, or at least a taste of it. And we want that mentorship, the guidance that comes along with it. So I don't really see this as like groundbreaking, but I do see, foregoing an option to work remotely to get a job the way that it's phrased is kind of pendulum swinging type of phrase. So yeah, what do you guys think? You're nodding your head, John.
I think you're spot on. I think the first of all, I think Gen Z gets a bad rap about this because I do agree
Yeah.
with you that there is definitely a hunger to have some sort of connection to people in the office or work environment, whatever it is, because I do think that loneliness is and kind of feeling like you're isolated on an island is starting to affect some people, and they've been. I think lots of people have been vocal about it, not just Gen Z. So. But I do think I understand the fact that employers right now, and this is probably where some of the debate could come up. I think employers right now are pushing the envelope as well. Like, oh, okay, so I'm in the driver's seat a bit more, so I'm paying rent or mortgages or whatever for properties, and so I need to fill my office, and so I'm going to start telling people they have to come back to work, even if if it has nothing to do with productivity or performance. It's now I gotta do something with this space that I have, and I wonder if there isn't part of that that's influencing this as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I look at the history too of why and when remote work became really popular, and obviously the pandemic forced a lot of companies into allowing people to work from home. Now, they weren't building remote first companies, they were literally forced to have people work from home. But then in 2021, you had the Great Resignation,
Mm,
and it's just easier to recruit when you can get people fully remote, because not only do you have more access to talent, you're able to get people cheaper because you can hire talent in different places, right? So if you're in San Francisco, you don't have to pay San Francisco wages if you're hiring someone in wherever, like Wisconsin, right? It's like you could find people. And then a lot of, like, to your point, Danielle, the pendulum was really with employees back then. And so as a recruiter,
yeah.
the first question every candidate would ask for any of these office jobs was, is this job remote? And it was like you couldn't even have a conversation if it wasn't. So I think the study is really just showing that the job market's changing
Hmm.
and it's really difficult to find work. And so, yeah, I think when it comes down to it, is someone going to forego income and a job over remote work? No. Now, but in 2021, they would have, because there were a lot more jobs. But then also to your point, John, I think people have realized that, like, that connection, that daily connection, I think people are burned out with being at home with the young kids. But I think there's still those people who are in, like, my stage, where it's like I've been working for a decade, I'm comfortable in my job, like I know what I'm doing. I still value that flexibility, and so there is still a large contingency of people who are like that, and
I,
they're
I
doing a thing.
I think that um, the other thing that I found interesting about this study is just how recently the comparative piece to this study was done, and we have to
Mm,
be careful about, like, every 60 days, if we just ask people, like, is that really a trend? I'm not sure if that's enough time to really show a trend. So I feel like some of this is sort of like clickbait headline to freak everybody out.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's a fair point. The study, it says in an analysis of more than 2 million job seekers between January and March of this year.
2
12%,
million.
yeah, 2 million. 12% fewer Gen Z job seekers prioritized location flexibility in March, while demand increased among all other age groups.
It's a lot of people. How could they get to 2 million?
I
That's a
don't think
lot of
so.
people.
I'm trying.
Newsletter subscribers, probably just bots. Just bots
Bots.
these days
That's
with
2
wild.
million
AI.
bots are looking to go back to the office.
I did see, I've been seeing a lot more, and I think we've been talking about this on the show, but I've been seeing a lot more talk around Gen Z getting into trades, and obviously trades on site,
Yes.
right? Like, no, you're not doing trades remotely.
Yeah.
And I saw one, I think it was maybe on CNBC. I was watching it while I was at the gym. That's right. Shout out to the gym. But I was watching it, and it said they did a study, and it said that Gen Z were choosing it because, number one, you get paid quicker, so you don't have to, like, you kind of start off at a higher pay, you get paid quicker, then you don't have the college education funds, right?
Yep.
So it's like you're saving money. They also said that there's a demand for it, so it's easier to get jobs. So there was just a lot of reason. And then the
100%.
last one was they prefer hands-on work, which I was like, I think maybe that is a shift too, where, like, I've seen a lot of commentary from Gen Z on, like, hey, these office jobs are not real jobs. They're just people doing stuff on keyboards. And so that it seems like that's becoming a thing as well, where they're saying, well, no, I want to see what work I'm doing tangibly, versus, how it is with like office jobs. Someone's like, I did a spreadsheet today. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's not
Plus,
fulfilling.
plus,
I moved
plus,
some I moved some emails around. It was really great.
had a lot of windows open today. So
Exactly.
exciting. No, plus a lot of those jobs, you're working with people alongside other people, especially in
Yeah.
the,
Yeah.
when you're in trade school, when you're learning from other people. I think that's also an interesting part of it. And it's so much easier to start your own business, especially right now in the trades,
Mm,
because there is so much demand.
I don't know though. I think it's actually harder to start your own business in the trades more because you have to get certified. So you have to actually not intern. You have to apprentice for a couple of years. So they actually it's the challenge is it's a lot of those companies, they don't want to hire people on entry level because once they train them and then they get their apprenticeship and they get certified and they get all of that, I think there's a fear that then they'll start their own business. Does that make it like that's what I've heard?
Yeah.
Because I used to recruit in that, and they were like, "No, we don't want any entry level people because we always hire them up." And
Mm,
so there is, and I think that's something they got to shift in the industry because it's not great if when you train people in, it's like you're cannibalizing your own business,
yeah.
and so there's a lot of resistance with that. They want that 2 to 5 years of experience and people who want to be working versus entrepreneurism. So I think they got to figure that out.
Yeah. There is like I think there's also a shift in other industries similarly that to more entrepreneurial style. So like there's one company called Atlas. A friend of mine from college started it, Atlas AI. And basically he started with in the real estate industry, allowing real estate professionals to basically not pay such a huge commission on their sales and keep more of their commission, but it's like a membership model. So it's like basically belonging to a brokerage, but instead of paying a percentage of your commission, you pay a membership fee for the year, which is very cool. It's like reimagining the model, which enables people to make more and to be happier with what they make, and it's a competitive edge. So I feel like, yeah, the trades needs to innovate for sure. Yeah. So that's our story. Any other final closing thoughts? Should Gen Z
I will
just.
never go back to the office. I just want to call it. John's shaking his head. And I will go back to that. If push came to shove and I had to, I would go back to the office, the home office.
Yeah,
No, I
let's
think
do
that
that round thing for
I
you.
think that is it. Well, look, that was a great headline. Appreciate all the thoughts. Let us know in the comments what you think.
unbelievable.
You leaning more towards going back to the office? Do you think this is a trend that's going to continue, or is this just purely where the market is? Let us know in the comments. And I think we have our next segment here.
There she is.
Um,
Good morning, my friend. How are you,
Good
Elaine?
morning. I'm good. I'm
Are
good.
you,
I
did you have a great holiday weekend?
I
What
did.
anything special?
I did. And you want to know why it was great? I did nothing.
So same here.
I
I'm so
literally,
glad you said that.
yeah.
I I did not open my laptop until 5 o'clock yesterday afternoon.
Look at you. You even did it yesterday afternoon. I literally didn't open it up till this morning. I had my first meeting at 5. I opened it up at 4:45. Went, okay, what do we got
Wow.
going on today? I know, right? That's very unlike me. I did. That's what I did. Yeah, no, I binge watched Love at First Sight or Married at First Sight. I got like
Oh,
I I don't even know why I got into that. That was like my whole weekend. Between that and floating around in the pool and drinking margaritas, that was it.
I was floating around the pool as well. I did not watch Married at First Sight, though. I will. I know my wife loves that. Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
problem. I don't know. I,
There's
like,
no AI in Married at First Sight. That I will tell you. That I do know. There's no AI.
are we sure? I'm
I
not sure.
hope not.
I'm not sure. Maybe that's the next episode that they'll do. I know AI. It's all about AI dude, everywhere, all the time. It's all we're talking about. But
Oh,
yeah,
well,
I
with the
zoned out after a long and busy week last week. I zoned out.
I'm so glad you did that, honestly. And you also have been doing a lot of work prepping for this
Yeah,
huge off on June 10th.
huge, huge. Yeah. So
So fill us
spent
in. Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about it. So, spent all last week in New York, literally in the studio with our lovely friends from Skill Scout, who are fabulous, by the way. Um, Prepping this launch for June 10th, really going deep with our product team as well, and looking at what the product is actually going to look like as it's rolling out the door. It's fire, John. I'm so
Is
excited.
it?
It's so good. It looks so good. It's so tight. It's got all the elements that we said we're going to be there and some more. Some really interesting stuff.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah. And it's a whole combined ecosystem, right? So first out the gate with your full orchestration layer all embedded in, end to end AI takes you everywhere from the candidate experience to the recruiter experience and also the hiring manager experience, which was very fun to see. I think that's going to change a few things for people. Um,
That's
and a whole new way to look at pricing and packaging, but all becomes true on June 10th. I'm very excited about.
so I love, first of all, congratulations. I
Thank
want
you.
to make sure I say that, right? It's going to be fun. I'm fascinated by the hiring manager perspective though, because it is probably out of the categories you were just sharing. It is often the category that is either left out completely. We
Mhm,
really don't think of the hiring manager. And if we do think of the hiring manager, it's, let me be honest, often with frustration or indignation as to how they don't get it, right? Whatever
mhm,
that.
mhm.
What was the inspiration to be thoughtful? I would say more deliberately regarding the hiring manager.
Yeah. So, I think what you're saying is actually really poignant and true for what we see in a lot of people's experiences on both sides of the fence,
Yep.
right? So, from the TA side, from the recruiter lens, it's often although we mean it to be great and we try and have all these great interactions and connections, it is a tense experience sometimes navigating the hiring manager expectation, helping them try and understand what it is that we do. Remember, hiring managers, for the most part, there's a lot of research out here that's going to show you that most hiring managers hire maybe once a year if they're lucky, right?
Yeah.
They're we misinterpret and believe because we're in it all the time, they're in it all the time.
Right.
Right?
Right.
It is, on one hand, the most important part of their job, right? Which is getting the right people in the right roles, doing the right things. But at the same time, it's also this added thing. It's not necessary, it's additive to just getting their day to day done. So it's very difficult for them to navigate that. So, as frustrated as we are on the TA side, oftentimes with hiring managers are often very, very frustrated because we talk in our own language, we use shorthand, they don't understand what's going on behind the scenes. Our The way we navigate that whole back and forth is just challenging, right?
Yeah.
Super
Yeah.
challenging. So
Yeah.
if we know that's the case, I think our approach has been, how do we approach this from a different lens? How do we, instead of saying, how do we insert recruiters deeper into this process? How do we think about tools to support hiring managers to navigate the process in a more seamless way in their own flow of work? And so that's what this is really about, right? So if we've taken what we've learned in the last few years about building an engagement layer for recruiters, a place where recruiters can go and interact and be able to get data and using bots to help support them doing that, what prevents us from actually supporting hiring managers in the same way? Imagine a hiring manager going in today and instead of having to log into whatever system it is you're using, getting a notification through Slack that says, hey, I hear you need to hire a new team member. Here are some example job descriptions. Does one of these work for you? It's in their flow of work. It's right there in front of them, instantaneous moment that they can go and do it. What if they actually, when it's time for them to review a candidate that they just interviewed, what if they're just on their phone and they provide their quick notes on their phone and it already goes back into the system, creates the note fields, and the recruiter has what they need and nobody's chasing anybody,
I love that.
right?
Yeah. I mean, what if? I mean, we say these things like, and I mean this obviously respectfully to what's been put together. We say these things like they're some outrageous thought that we're bringing in, but most of it really is common sense.
Mm-hmm.
If you really think about it, it's, I spend so much time chasing a hiring manager. To your point,
Right.
what if I just made it easier for that person? One of the things, and I want to make sure, by the way, let me say this QR code that we have on the screen, please be sure to scan that. Join us on June 10th. I know I will be there. Please be sure, right, to join us on June 10th. I'm thoughtful about, like, um, if the talent acquisition professional, even the HR professional, often when we're involved with HR technology selection, TA tech selection, we think about us. What's going to work best for us? What's going to make my life easier? What kind of reports can I get that are going to make me happy? We don't necessarily think, what kind of workflow will this provide for the hiring manager? Right?
Right.
I don't know
Right.
that that often comes up. And so to kind of introduce that, I would hope should be met with receptivity on the TA and HR side of things, because we spend too much time chasing after things that we don't set up well, right, for success for that hiring manager.
Right.
And to your point, they don't do it often enough for many of them to really have this be second nature for them. So really needing to be thoughtful about that.
Right. I had this reflective moment after I came back from New York and I was watching the demos happen and kind of as people were talking about this. And it became thinking about how we build systems for ourselves to allow ourselves to be successful in things. Right. So I use this as a great example. I have been notorious my entire life for killing plants. I love them. I think they're fabulous. I want them. I go to the garden store, I buy them, and they're dead in a month, right?
Mm,
I'm
yep.
horrible at it.
Yes.
And I thought, well, I just can't have plants anymore. It's not my thing, right? Then I had a friend who sent me an easy plant. Have you heard of these easy plants?
I have not.
Right. So this easy plant, it's literally an easy plant. It shows up. It's a beautiful plant. You water it once a month, and it has a system to keep itself alive. I don't know how it's doing
Um,
it. Right. I
yep.
now have I am now a plant mother. I now have, you should see my living room, like 50 plants. Why can
Amazing.
I keep them alive? Not because I've done anything different, but because I now have systems.
Yep.
Systems that support me for how I operate and who I am. Right. I think that's the same thing as we think about our interactions and our engagements with hiring managers, even with candidates and with recruiters, that we, um, instead of trying to force feed, this is the way it should be done, sort of process down people's throat. Instead, think about what are the things that we could be doing to create systems of ease for people
Yeah. Yeah.
that's into the way in which they naturally operate today, right? So that's the root of experience design, right? Figuring out what is that thing that allows people to tap in and do it through their normal flow of work and the way in which they normally operate without being this additive thing that's thrown on top and around and et cetera,
Yep.
gets forgotten about. That, I think, is the key. Now, in a world where we're living in a world right now where a lot of recruiters and TA teams are questioning to themselves, what does our future look like? And what is my job? If my job isn't chasing hiring managers, then what is my job?
Yeah.
Right. I think it does pose some opportunity for us to have that dialogue and to think about how we evolve what we're doing. I know that's some of
Yeah.
the work you're doing with teams, right? Having that conversation, like where could we go?
Yeah.
What do we do? So yeah, I think there's a little bit of push and pull here. I think there'll be this moment where everybody kind of goes, "Oh, okay, what does that mean?" And then I'm hoping it's followed up very quickly with a, "Okay, let's build a plan now. Now, what could we do?"
I mean, if we're not whetting the appetites of everyone for June 10th, I don't know what else we can do. So please scan that QR code. Join us on the 10th. Lynn, thank you so much for
Thank
joining us
you.
this morning. Great to see you as
Oh, nice
always.
to meet you, John. It's
See you
fabulous.
on the 10th.
Okay, see you then. Toodles, guys.
Events. Sherm 25 in San Diego. Who is going?
I'm going to San Diego. No, I'm
Are
not.
you?
I'm not going.
You're not
Nope.
going. Well,
No.
so I will be there. I am. I'll actually be speaking.
Are
Um,
you? What are you speaking on?
I am doing the pre-conference on being an HR department of one.
Sweet.
So hoping to have, I think, close to 100 folks that'll be there for that.
Huge.
And so, because if you've never been an HR department of one, it is an undertaking. So you need support. Those of you who are headed that way, please make sure you check into that. I'll be sharing some ideas on how to do that well, because it's a lot of work for one person. And I think more companies are trying to stretch that department of one for
Yeah.
100, 200 employees.
Wow.
So it's because of budgets. Lot is falling on your shoulders. So be sure to join me and Bradley Cooper, my other Philly connection, at Sherm 25.
Love it. I love it.
Cool. I love Bradley Cooper.
All right. What do
Talent
we have
Sphere.
next? Talent
We got
Sphere?
Talent Sphere, yeah. We got that. With Talk and Talent Collective, our friends of the show. That is June 2nd through the 5th in Scottsdale, Arizona, which I've always wanted to go to Scottsdale, guys. Not in June,
Well,
but I hear there's some great spas in Arizona.
that is true. That
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
true,
I
actually.
think that's kind of the feel, right? It's like a spa and like community building event.
Love.
And I think it's June 3rd through 5th on there as well. So yeah, I think you probably staying cool, I would imagine, and like just lots of really really good interactions. And two
Air
great
conditioning.
organizations getting
Air
together with
conditioning.
Talent Collective and Talk. So that's
Yeah.
pretty exciting, and it's the
Very
first
cool.
one. First one.
Is
Oh,
it?
I didn't
That's
realize
awesome.
first
So it's
one.
gonna be the
Congratulations on
best one
your
they've ever done.
That's awesome. The best one ever.
It's
Yeah.
also going to be the worst one they've ever done. Just shouldn't say that. All right, we got the what is this? NACA. NACR. So if you guys don't know about NACR, it is the National Association of Healthcare Recruitment. Don't Google that. But La Quinta Resort and Club in Palm Springs. Shout out to PS. This is another like just straight up like it's going to be cooking there. It's probably going to be like 110 degrees. But I guess there's some really great events being held. Some maybe pool parties.
There's
Maybe I
a pool
hear. I don't know. I
party.
don't want to
Yeah.
ruin it for people, but
Yeah.
um, I mean, look at that. It's Palm Springs,
Sounds like a
beautiful.
party.
Yeah, it'll be a party.
Yes.
It's gonna be a good time. And so I think there's some recruitment. What is that? So recruitment R&R. You get to rejuvenate and refresh your recruitment strategies. I like that. Recruiters don't get enough R&R. They just
Yeah.
don't. It's
Yeah.
stress. It's like kind of like how the HR team of one.
Yeah.
It's like same with the
Yeah.
Especially
recruiting.
healthcare.
So
Such a hard
yeah,
industry to
healthcare is a
recruit in
grind.
right now.
So true.
So that'll be a great event. So let us know if you're going to go to that. And then I think what is it? June 10th. Something's going on June 10th.
This one is in everyone's budget, right? I mean, you're doing it from home, from work. You're getting
Unless you're Gen
online.
Z and you have to go back to the office.
You could do it while you're on the train going to the office. Look at
Yeah.
Okay.
that, right?
That
If you're in what is that alternative side parking? If you have to sit in your car for a while,
in
you
the car.
that way as well. June 10th, Smart Recruiters. Make sure that you join online for that event.
I love it. Put that code. Hello. Hello.
How
Who's
are
who?
you?
I'm good. I'm good. Who is out there? Who do I have calling in today?
So this is Jen Tardy. I am the founder and CEO of Jennifer Tardy Consulting, and I'm excited to be here today.
Okay. I know you have something really really big going on soon, coming up soon. Why don't you what is going on in your world?
I love your excitement too. So funny enough, okay, I have a book coming out. That's what's most important to understand.
Yes.
June the
Love,
17th. You see
love
it right
that.
here too. I see it on the screen. So the
Yeah.
Edge is coming out. How addressing bias in recruiting and retention drives success. And it's funny. While I was backstage, my books just came in from the publisher, so I'll be opening those
Oh,
later.
I love that.
Exciting time.
That is so exciting. Well, let's talk about the book. Number one, I think there's a lot of confusion, right? It's right now. I feel like with DE and I in particular, a lot of confusion. I know over the last couple of years, so many companies have committed, right? We want diverse workforce. We want to have diversity in our organizations.
Yeah.
And then in more recent times, there's been a pullback. I think there's confusion on what this means for recruitment. So I'd love to get your perspective, um, from a recruitment standpoint, from a retention standpoint. What are some of the things that we need to be focusing on, and what does your book talk about as far as what we should focus on for diversity in recruitment?
You know what's interesting? One of the philosophies, so Jennifer Tardy Consulting, we call ourselves Team JTC. So one
Love
of
that.
the philosophies that we've always said is that we teach workplaces how to increase diversity and retention without harm. So we've always lived in this space of without harm, which to us means how do we move more people along in the conversation and not leave people feeling left out or behind in the conversation, right? So we've always been in this space of, and so now when we're in this landscape of companies rolling back DEI legislative changes and things like that, companies are like, oh, so what do I do next? How do I navigate this if I really believe in increasing diversity? And so one of the things that we talk about is focus on the hurdles, right? And really look at this from a human perspective. We want to make sure that we get the best people within our organization, but we understand that there are a lot of hurdles that are preventing access for groups. Now, which ones or which groups are these hurdles disproportionately impacting, and how do we start there to begin removing those hurdles? And so, and when we talk about hurdles, that's the bias that we're referring to. And so that's what people are going to learn about in the book, The Equity Edge, is that if you focus on where are the hurdles in the hiring process and the promotional process, how do we remove those hurdles to give more people access? That is the edge that equity gives you. And equity is really about leveling the playing field.
Yeah, I love that. And I know when I think of recruitment, sourcing is a big one, right? And where do we source talent from? Now, in most of the recruitment organizations I've worked in,
Mhm.
LinkedIn is like it's the go-to, especially with corporate roles. It's like, let's go find them on LinkedIn. And obviously, LinkedIn just absolutely crushes it business-wise.
Yeah.
But that's not the only place we can find talent, right? So what are your thoughts on like different sourcing strategies, and how do we need to think differently about sourcing as well? Like what are some thoughts around that?
And I talk about that in the book too. And specifically, you were just talking about LinkedIn as we as recruiters, because I grew up in recruiting, we are conditioned to do what's always worked for us. And especially when things are moving very quickly, we're like, all right, let me go to LinkedIn.
Yeah.
What a lot of recruiters may not understand is that even though job seekers, let's talk about job seekers from marginalized communities, they may have a profile on LinkedIn, but that's not where they're engaging the most. And so we have to begin. One of the things that I speak to is we have to ask where people are coming from to understand where they're going and why. So here's how this plays out in real life. For some positions, we may say, okay, we need to hire an engineer. Where do we go to find engineers, right? What I'm recommending, if we really want to level the playing field, is, yep, let's ask, we have this position open for an engineer, but where are we also underrepresented within our organization? Oh, okay. So the data shows that we're underrepresented for people who identify as LGBTQ plus. Okay, so let's bring that into the conversation. So if we're underrepresented in this population and we're looking for engineers, this is a great opportunity to begin to also ask the question, where are they? What are they thinking about? Where are they going? And then the answer becomes, where do they feel most safe? And then I always hear people ask me, safe to do what, Jennifer? Safe to bring their whole selves to that space. And many times it may not be on a job board. So I remember once I saw this video going back to LinkedIn, and they were doing some um, karaoke nights or something like that. And so they would create these spaces where people could come and live and have those networking nights on things that people in the community just like to do. And they would turn those into networking opportunities and turn those into ways to recruit. So I want organizations to begin thinking about it from a two-way conversation. It's not, let's stop going to the standard places. It's asking, where can we also go?
Do you think that we're going to see more? Because I take it those were like live karaoke events as well, right? Like they weren't online. Yeah, but I think we're seeing more kind of a demand for just live interactions anyway. And so I think even just from a recruitment perspective, like trying to get things offline more, and it seems like, as a whole, it's like people are almost communicating less online anyway. Like they're not as accessible. So how, I guess, what would your advice be, like, for, like, that was a great example for like karaoke. How as an organization do you start to think, and like how can you kind of figure out where people feel
Mhm.
safe or where they're going to be so you can recruit? Like, do you look at your internal employees? Do you do research? Like, what are the resources that are out there for teams to be thinking like this?
So for the organizations, that's a great question. For the organizations that still have affinity groups, that is a great place to start. And it's really about being a part. When I was leading recruiting teams, our recruiters would all be assigned to different affinity groups, and it had to be mutually beneficial, where
Hmm.
the recruiter would be a part of it and they would be responsible for sharing what's going on in recruiting. And in turn, the voice of the members in the affinity groups was heard and was incorporated into how we went about doing our searches. So it's
I
about
love that. I haven't heard of many organizations doing that, by the way. It's probably the first time I've heard that. So that's great.
a lot of companies that I've worked with, the disconnect would always be, hey, we've now done the work to create a DEI office. And we're now ready for recruiters to start doing their thing. How do we bridge that connection? And then that's the sweet spot that I lived in. I would help to translate across the aisle that these are things they're building these affinity groups within DEI. Recruiters are ready to recruit. They're just not sure how, and they're not sure how to do it without causing harm. Because what we're used to is, it could be teams where, like, okay, we need to make sure that there's diversity among our interview panel. Let's go and get this person. And that feels like tokenization right there. But if you're genuinely building relationships that are mutually beneficial, and you're like, hey, I need help here and understanding this here,
Hmm.
or you're doing your own research and you're like, hey, this is what I'm thinking. May I use you all as a thought partner as well too? You see the mutual, how it's mutually beneficial. I recommend that.
That's huge. That's right. It's I know you also mentioned about um LEI,
Yeah.
which I don't know if I've heard LEI. What is this? Tell me why this is important, as well, and I guess why this is so important for companies as well to understand this part of everything as well.
What's funny is growing up, and I'm literally just now remembering this. Growing up, my sister and I are a year apart.
Mm.
So we were pretty much raised like twins. And so people would call us question and answer, because someone always had a question, someone always had the answers, right? Right. So funny, food for thought.
That's awesome.
Now, I'm the question person. I ask questions about everything. You can't just tell me that something needs to happen or that something's beneficial for me without me asking why.
Yeah.
And so you would hear all of this data around, hey, increasing diversity is great for your organization. It does this and this and this, but these are the benefits. And I'm like, but how? And I'm like, it's no one else care. How is this happening, right? And so I went on this this great quest to really understand it. I even brought a team of people together, and we were just unpacking it. And that um, it dawned on me that it's the intelligence that comes from a person's lived experiences that is
Amazing.
the it factor to why increasing diversity has been so beneficial to organizations. And so, what LEI stands for is lived experience intelligence. And what's happening is that organizations are benefiting greatly from lived experience intelligence, but we're not acknowledging it. And we're
Hmm.
not compensating people for it. And we're not saying, hey, this is intelligence here. And in the book, I actually break it down a lot, and I even compare it to gravity. I didn't come up with something that never existed, almost like gravity. Gravity always existed. Existed. Gravity always existed, but someone came and named it. Someone said, hey, do you understand what's happening around you? That's called gravity.
Yeah.
And that's all we're doing right now with lived experience intelligence. And lived experience intelligence, in a nutshell, it's it's the intelligence that comes from our lived experiences. But what makes it so important is that this lived experience is created through what we have access and exposure to, or what we're denied access and exposure to. And what it creates for us is a unique perspective of the world. And I often reference Sheryl Sandberg's book, Lean In, from a long time ago, where she's talking about how, she was like 8 months pregnant and she was late for a boardroom meeting. And by the time she had gotten to the meeting, she had to park far away. And anyone who's ever been 8 months pregnant in a rush to get somewhere, it is not an easy.
Oh my gosh.
So she goes into this meeting, this board meeting, in a room full of men. And she's like, why don't we have maternity spots? Right. And it's not like these men are these bad men or these big bad wolves. If it's not a part of your lived experience to be 8 months pregnant and rushing into a meeting, it's probably not within your awareness. But now enter someone who has this lived experience as a part of her awareness, and then she's able to bring innovation and change or whatever is necessary for the organization. So that's why I'm a huge proponent of lived experience intelligence.
So important when you're solving problems, right? To have different perspectives, and I think it's underrated. Kind of reminds me of it's almost like skills-based hiring as well. And I think what's challenging is you have to be aware that these parts of us matter when it comes to solving complex problems, especially within the business settings. And I don't think that's always illuminated. Like, we default go to what's your experience, what school did you go to, what have you accomplished, right? And we don't always ask those deeper questions. So I love that. So the book's coming out. Where can people get a hold of your book? Where can people connect with you? I know you're putting out a lot of great content on LinkedIn. I'm a new follower here. So where can people find you? Where can people connect? And where can people pick up their own copy of the book?
If people, anywhere books are sold, number one, on June the 17th, but people can pre-order as soon as today. And if you go to jennifertardy.com, that's the easiest way that people can find all of the links to purchase the book. And for those who pre-order the book, meaning before June 17th, you'll also get a free instructor guide on how to teach this book within your workplace. So I wanted to make sure I put that out there.
Yeah. So definitely pre-order the book, The Equity Edge. Great to have you on today, Jennifer. Thank you so much for sharing with us. We will put those links in the chat as well. We'll have our team do that. And then I always say, if you connect with Jennifer on LinkedIn, just always be patient. Say, hey, I saw you on the show today. And looking forward to having you on the show again. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. Take care.
All right. Thanks, Jen. Bye.
Bye.
All right. We are talking about Erin, our favorite employee referral platform. If you have not heard of Erin or gotten your sloth yet or your red shoes, you should head to erinap.com right now /red shoes to get your red shoes. And yeah, that's kind of it. If you have not heard of Erin, it is the best employee referral platform in the world, in my opinion, but that's just me. And yeah, employee referrals are the future because people talk to each other, and that is it. Thank you for sponsoring the show and being a incredible partner. And let's move it on over to our next guest.
Oh, Kelsey Myers. Good morning.
Hi, how are you? It's nice to meet you, John.
Nice to meet you as well. I don't know. Is it a decent time of day there, or am I catching you at the crack of dawn?
Yeah, 8 a.m. I'm on the West Coast.
Okay.
Not
Not
too bad.
terrible. Not terrible.
Yeah.
Great to meet you. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me.
I heard something about the fact that you enjoy triathlon. Is that a correct fact?
That's correct. Yes.
How much do you enjoy them? What's
How much
the
do I
current
enjoy that?
record?
Enjoy is sort of a funny word to describe triathlon. I enjoy the community of triathlon. I enjoy setting goals. Yeah, I
You've done a
So
bunch.
last year I set a world record for the
Yeah.
fastest woman to race 6 triathlons on 6 continents in 6 days, which was really fun, actually. So I love that.
Yeah, I mean,
I
I
love
just want to make
exploring the world in
sure.
that way.
Thank you for that graphic, by the way. That's put up, Alan. I appreciate that. 6 triathlons on 6 continents in 6 days. I think that last bit around 6 days. That's it's not that it's unimpressive that you did 6 or on 6 continents. 6 days, like that's
It was
unbelievable.
nutty.
So where did that come from? Was that like generated, like it just came to you one day, or what was the inspiration?
I had a friend who was the first person to do 7 triathlons on 7 continents in 7 days. And I was actually aiming to be the first woman to do 7 triathlons on 7 continents in 7 days. I lost the permit to be able to swim in Antarctica right before I did the whole thing. So I had to pivot, I had to change the route. Still got to do the 6. I'm still aiming to do 7 as soon as it's safe to swim in Antarctica.
I mean,
But yeah, I had a friend who put the idea in my head. And then once it was in my head, I just couldn't get it out. I was after it.
I'm sorry, you said a little nugget that I don't want to let go because contextually I think that's really important. You need a permit to swim in Antarctica. Is that what you said?
Yeah, to be able to fly into Antarctica. I mean, some people get around it by just taking a boat, but the concern is the bird flu was spreading to Antarctica, and there were concerns around the penguin population being wiped out. So obviously, did not want to do
Yeah.
that.
Boy, that's not the objective, I'm sure, is to crush
Yes,
the penguin
I love
population.
triathlon, but not that much.
So if from an experience perspective now, we just had Jen Tardy on talking about sort of this lived experience perspective and the intelligence that comes from it. Um, what do you take from doing something so extreme? And I mean that in the true sense of the word. I mean, it is not something that everybody in the world does. What did you learn from it?
I think the coolest part of the whole thing was the community component of it, like the way that people showed up for me all over the world, especially in Tangier, Morocco, and Muscat, Oman. I had total strangers show up, pick me up from the airport, guide me on the bike route, bring me snacks, like help coordinate the bike stuff. So, yeah, I mean, what I learned from it is just that, like, when you go out there and you do something cool, people are like, even if they don't know you, they'll show up and they want to get involved. So,
When someone hears your story, right, and they're not coming, let's say, from a athletic background, right, and it's maybe not something that someone aspires to do, but really can take something from the way in which perhaps you set objectives and goals and planning and all of that. How would you kind of help someone translate some of that so they could engage with a community at that level?
I mean, well, for one thing, I'd say I'm not like a professional athlete. I'm not super competitive. There was a
Yeah.
point I remember where I couldn't even run a mile straight. It was just a gradual thing. And there's actually a lot of parallels between sport and business. I'm sure you've seen this too, in that, it's incremental. You set goals, you go for it. And once you hit these milestones, you're like, oh my gosh, it kind of rewires the way that you think about yourself and the
Yeah.
things that you're capable of. I know I've seen that in business too, where it's like, oh, weird. I never thought I'd be a business owner. And then, you do the small steps and all of a sudden you're there. And, it's a cool thing to see. Same thing in sport.
Yeah, and I thank you. I love that you said, I didn't start out like being this incredible athlete and then all of a sudden do this. It's very incremental in some things, and there's a lot of brain rewiring that has to happen. I mean, I run and I find myself while running saying how much I hate what I'm doing, but you kind of fight your brain to say, but you can do this.
Right. Yeah. And then once you get past that, it's really incredible. You find the runner's high. Right.
Yeah, yeah. And so for you, how long would you say it took to kind of get to that, I'm going to push through. I know that if I keep going, and push through, it'll happen.
Well, there were a lot of small moments. I remember in college, I took a jogging class. That's when I could not run more than a mile. I took a jogging class and suddenly I ran a mile and then I ran 3 miles and then I ran 7 miles and then I did a half marathon and then I did a full marathon and got into triathlon, like it was just over time I would hit these milestones and 15 years later, I'm like, oh, wow, okay, I'm doing 6 triathlons all over the globe. That's weird. That's crazy. How did that happen?
But if you had first day of that jogging class, if it was like, I'm committing to running, to doing 6 triathlons, I'm sure you would have dropped that class
I
like
would
it, right?
totally, yes, absolutely.
So from a struggle standpoint, I wonder, was there a moment or two in those kinds of experiences where it was really tough? It was really like, yeah, I don't know that I'm
Yeah,
going to keep doing this.
I mean the world record itself, it was like a logistical feat more than anything, more than the physical part of it. Getting the permit to swim in Antarctica, I talked about that.
Mm.
I got hit by a car when I was in Tangier, just tapped.
What?
Going through a roundabout, got tapped by a car. I had a flat tire on my bike in Tangier. I had a visa issue getting into Sydney, Australia. So for a moment, I'd already done, I think, 4 of the triathlons, 4 of the 6. And I thought I wasn't going to get into Australia. So I was like, oh, the whole thing seemed like it was busted. Like it was just nonstop obstacles being thrown at me. And then it was just like, solve it, get on the plane, go to the next thing. Like, go, hop off the plane, swim, bike, run, get on the next plane. So yeah, it was 6 days of nonstop hurdles.
It's interesting because you made the comparison to business as well, and you walk in, you land or whatever in Australia, and you're like, I don't know that I can get in, and so your mindset is in the, I got to get to the race, right? I got to get going with what I need to do, but I have to pivot and now solve for this, what could be sort of like an ending problem, right? I'm not going to be able to do this. What
Yeah.
what happens in the brain for you? What switch has to
It was
flip from that?
It's really just staying calm. I think it's the same thing in business and just figuring out like, okay, how do we problem solve here? Okay, Google really fast. How do I get a visa and to get into Australia? I didn't realize that I needed that. It turned out it took 15 minutes. So I just stepped aside. I
Wow.
was checking into my flight in Muscat, Oman. I had to step aside. I was Googling really fast and then it was sent to me. And it was fine, but in that moment, it's like, you really just have to focus on staying calm and solving the problem rather
Wait,
than just panicking.
so what would you say? So when you think about sort of the tumultuousness that can happen in business, as an example, because again, from our audience standpoint, a lot of folks in human resources, a lot of folks working in recruitment, trying to find good talent to bring into businesses. Um, this calm thing, I have to tell you a secret in case you don't know. We're not always known for being calm. I don't know if that is apparent listening to the show so far, but that we're not always known for being calm. How do you sort of develop that if it's not something that's sort of natural for you? What would you suggest someone start doing?
I think just contextualizing, the circumstance that you're in. My first job was a lifeguard, and that was what we were trained when I was 16 years old. It was like, just stay calm, don't panic. And now I work in marketing as my full-time job. And there's a lot of things that happen, same thing. There's a lot of fires that blow up and people panic. And at the end of the day, like, babies aren't dying, right? So it's like,
Right.
if you just stay calm and you focus on the problem and solving the problem, you're probably going to be a lot more efficient than if you're running around just screaming and panicking.
Do you think so? The marketing thing compared to this experience that you had, right, with the 6 triathlons, do you see parallels besides the calmness thing? Are there other things that you can kind of apply to the work that you do in marketing?
Yeah, I mean, I see a lot of parallels, like I was saying earlier, with milestones, like setting goals. It's a really similar thing. I've also noticed that it seems like the two, like business and sport, tend to run parallel to one another in that when I'm really like into, say, cycling and I'm feeling really confident on my bike, and during the pandemic, I got back into cycling.
Mm.
And then I felt like that confidence that I had on the bike sort of translated into business somehow. So it's kind of like
Yeah.
when you're up leveling in one, you up level in the other. I don't know how it works, but it seems to be that way for a lot of people.
Yeah, and I think that's a great call out because sometimes you don't realize that it is going to like influence other parts of your life
Totally.
when you take,
Yeah.
right, when you take this risk. And people talk about endorphins and that sort of stuff. That's wonderful. I'm not knocking endorphins, right, from doing it, but there's something I think even just mentally that's really healthy to be out and exercise and contribute in that way that overlaps into work and even into the home, right? Like, be if you're got a family or you're trying to take care of parents or anything, attitude is absolutely part of this, right? And I got to imagine that attitude was a big part of your accomplishment during those 6 days.
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is, it was just so fun. Like, it was really hard getting to the start line. It took so much work. There were so many hurdles. It felt like it was nonstop. Like, so many things were going wrong. But then once it started, it was just a week of having so much fun. And like all my friends were kind of following along and messaging, as I was
Awesome.
going and cheering for me. I met so many cool people all over the world doing it, which was really cool. Yeah, it was a really cool experience.
That's awesome. Kelsey, if people want to follow more of your adventures, how can they best do that?
So well, just really fast. I'm working with the Challenged Athletes Foundation now. I don't know if you know about
No,
that. So I'm
appreciate you.
inviting HR professionals to join in for the corporate challenge in Malibu in September. And so if you want to reach me, my email address is kelsey@challengedathletes.org. And yeah, we're putting together a corporate challenge. I'm helping to organize this. Perfect for HR professionals with health and wellness initiatives.
Yeah.
It's for building camaraderie among teammates. We kind of talked about that, promotes health and wellness initiatives, and we're raising money for an amazing cause.
Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. And we'll make sure in the show notes that we get that out to everybody as well. Kelsey, great to meet you.
Yeah,
Thanks for joining us
great
this
to meet
morning.
you. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
At Humoriso, we're not just another HR consultancy. We're a team of dedicated experts wanting to bring your business forward. Our Humoriso Technology Solutions, HTS, are a different kind of HR tech. Give real-time insights without overwhelming managers with too much data. So whether you're a growing startup, an established company, our human resources outsource support, payroll management are all there to help drive your business forward. So check us out and see what Humoriso could do for you today.
Good morning, beautiful HR people. I want to dig in today's weather forecast, and let me tell you, it's pretty cloudy with a chance of career disruption for talent acquisition folks. So recently, I've had a lot of discussion with TA pros, and some are very worried, and I would say probably justifiably so. We all remember during the pandemic when recruiters were in higher demand than software engineers. Yeah, that happened. It's definitely not the case anymore because if we fast forward to 2025, it's cooled way down. The US between 2020 and 2023 added almost 250,000 recruiting specialist roles. That kind of growth was never sustainable. Now, if we look at current hiring in TA roles, it's the weakest that we've seen in almost a decade, almost going to 2 decades. And here's the twist. We're not even in a recession that we know of. I think there's a lot of discussions around that. But overall, corporate profits are still booming. But CEOs, they're still slashing budget, especially headcount. So if you're not hiring, you're not hiring TA folks. And if we add the other elephant in the room that we all talk about, I think a little too much, AI. No, AI is not going to replace all recruiters, but it will be replacing the old way of recruiting. And let's face it, it is going to replace some recruiters. The recruiters that are using AI for like sourcing, screening, scheduling, trying to be as effective as possible so they can interact with their hiring managers and their candidates, they're becoming twice as effective. And I'm seeing that gap is really growing between really good recruiters and I would say mediocre recruiters. But we've seen this before. We've seen automation in manufacturing. The jobs didn't vanish overnight. They evolve as we need to evolve. So here's the forecast for the talent acquisition profession. It's not dying, but it's being redefined really, really quickly. Because after every downturn, companies used to rebuild their TA teams, but with AI, they might not have to in the same way they did in the past. The change is happening gradually, then suddenly. Are we adapting or are we just waiting to be replaced? That's your HR forecast. Let's get back to the wonderful folks on the panel. I'm going to leave you with this question. Should talent acquisition folks working internally be worried about what's coming?
Dun, dun, dun.
What a question for a Tuesday post-holiday weekend. Like a slap in the face.
I love it. I love how the question is just like how worried, not
Yeah,
like should they be worried. It's just like how worried, like
right.
0 or like 10.
We're trying to get
Right?
specific here.
Yeah. What's that worry factor out, John? What do you think?
I mean, I think it's probably a 6 if you're going to really do the 10-point scale. I would definitely think so. I think that Serge brings up a great point about the amount of TA practitioners that were hired, right, over the last, if looking back over 5 years. It was not sustainable, right, for as many that were brought on for the need, but that need has changed. So of course there's going to be some layoff and maybe reassignment of some folks, which actually I think is probably the better way to look at it, if organizations are a little open to it. But yeah, I mean, it's not that the skies are, all gloomy, but I think that some should be worried for
Yeah.
sure.
I would think that some of the people, at least that were hired, pivoted into talent acquisition rather than that being their entire background.
Mm,
Like 250,000 people don't just pop up out of nowhere. And so my question around reassignment maybe is, where can you reassign them? Or where can you pivot maybe back to the initial industries or roles that you were in, um, before you went into talent acquisition? And I think talent acquisition is a really, it's a profession that enables you to build a lot of emotional intelligence, and human intelligence. So from that perspective, I think those skills are more needed than ever.
mm.
And I don't think that it's all worry, but I think, John, to your point, there's definitely worry that comes with it. In that the times are changing, and the types of roles that are required in certain companies are really changing too.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
I think across the board in every role, right? Like it's
Yeah.
not just talent acquisition. I think it's accounting, finance, HR, marketing, sales. What I think we have to be really careful of, and I am as guilty as this as anyone, in terms of some of the content that I put out. And I think content creators we always blurring that line, right, of like clickbait and wanting to get attention and like how we do that. But I do think worry, I don't think benefits any of us. I think it's what we should be doing is thinking differently and just trying to understand how technology is impacting our role specific. And I think again, it's not worrying. I think it's just changing the way that we think about positions. And I think someone mentioned this, maybe John, you mentioned this earlier. It's going, okay, for talent acquisition, here's what the role looks like now.
Hmm.
Here's what technology is bringing to the table, and here's
Yep.
how it can look in the future.
Yeah.
I personally think talent acquisition is going to look more strategic. I think where it becomes a challenge is a lot of people fell into talent acquisition. I think Jen mentioned it. We tend to fall into a pattern of, oh, this is how we've always done things. And we're resistant to change sometimes. So I think we have to be more open to change. We have to learn the business, learn the whole business as a whole, and understand what are the other impacts that we should have, like workforce planning, understanding utilization, understanding internal mobility, understanding recruitment marketing. It's a lot of other factors I think we could drive more strategy in versus just transactional recruiting. So I think it's not worry. Like if there is one thing we should be worried about is like what is it? What are things going to look like? But that's not really worry, right? It's just trying to understand like can we see and anticipate the future changes.
I mean,
Yeah.
workforce planning is an undervalued skill within the
100%.
broader human resources category, right? That is such a good call out, Joel, because it is something I think we have the time. Truthfully, we have the time right now to, if we're not doing as much talent hiring, then we ought to look at workforce planning with some depth,
Yeah.
because there are people within. And I love, Danielle, that you were piggybacking off of that comment about reassigning or redirecting some folks that are in talent acquisition, because there's some really operationally smart people that are in talent acquisition. What a great pivot for them to take that from recruiting ops to another area of ops right within an organization. Don't lose that skill set. You can just reassign it. And they're already, for many of them, they're bought into the organization. There's so many things already about the value of workflows generally because of what they were doing in ops. I think it's just smart to kind of, as one example, to look to see how we can build upon that. It's about resilience right now. It's about
Yeah.
resilience. Kind of dig in a bit.
And what I would say to really anyone who's worried about their role, and even, I talk to a lot of younger people my age about this. They're like, okay, well, what do I do? Like, I don't want to be replaced. I don't want to, I want to be secure in my job. And maybe there's no growth opportunities right now because the reality is people are staying in their jobs longer. People are, for either it's a retirement, it's no retirement, or it's,
Yeah.
I'm scared of not being able to land another job. And I think what I would say is, get clear on what it is you do best. Keep track of your wins and stay up to date on what technology is able to do, and don't just ignore the possibilities of what automation can take over.
Right.
Take it seriously and be proactive in your approach to how does this apply to me and my role, and how could I become the person to go to about what it looks like, not just for my role but for my team.
Yeah.
And how could we leverage a lot of these systems, new tools that are coming out every day. And I think if you do those three things, then you will become a lot more secure in your role than you would be if you just sat around and let the doom and gloom kind of take over your life. So I'm a big fan of being proactive, of really taking control of your career, because at the end of the day, you're the only one who is going to watch out for you, or you are the one that's going to watch out for you the most. So that's what I would say to anyone who's kind of worried right now.
Yeah.
It's hard because it requires a level of perseverance that for some they've not been exposed to. And so, Danielle, I think you're totally right in terms of that, taking control, right? You are leading your own path forward in many ways. And so how do I set myself up to be able to travel that path? And that perseverance is a challenge for some folks, because again, we're being pushed in a way that we've not maybe professionally in a long time, if at all. So they're great words of wisdom there.
I'm curious, John, and this is not off topic, but we're going to see a lot of retirements over the next 5 to 10 years, right? There's going to be a big exodus from like the workforce with boomers.
Yeah.
I feel like no one talks about that.
It's funny though, Joel, because it's a great topic, but 2023 saw 2 million return to the workforce that were 70 plus, because of part-time included in that, by the way, because of the inability to survive on the retirement that they had set aside, right? Coming into 24 as well. So, yeah, I on paper, I think we should expect to see a lot of retirement occur. It'll be curious to see if people are really jumping on fully with retirement, and just because of economic factors. That might change some things.
Yeah. Well, look, I love your point, Danielle, about about that resilience, being able to adapt and change, right? It's huge, and taking control of your career. I know that's something that I think all of us, and like a lot of people we have on the show, a lot of guests on the show, that's one thing I see in common from a lot of guests we have, is like at some point they're like, all right, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to focus on this. I even think of that, just those triathlons, like to just make that say, hey, so what I'm going to do, like talk about taking control. But I just want to say I appreciate everybody who's out there. Would love to hear from you guys too, like what your thoughts are on, like what you're focusing on, how you're taking control of your situation, whatever kind of role you're in. I would love to also thank Erin again. Erin, great sponsor. If you guys haven't checked out Erin as well, you need to. Number one employee referral platform. I've seen this a lot of times. But one of the questions I ask when I'm meeting with a new client is like, "Hey, if do you have an employee referral program?" And I don't. It's rare that I get someone who's like, "Yes, this is what it looks like. Check out this platform and how we do it." It's usually like, "Yeah, I think we got like a spreadsheet that people can do." Yeah, we do it. You don't want to be embarrassed, but the great thing with Erin is it actually is a platform. There's gamification in there. There's ways to track things, and I think for particularly healthcare, manufacturing, all these industries we talked about, it is super tough to recruit people. And the biggest source is your own internal talent base. That means you got to treat people right. You've got to provide a way for them to refer people as well. So go check out Erin. Again, we want to hit our 2,000 followers on LinkedIn. I'm asking for a follow. I'm humbling myself. I'm asking for you guys to follow us on LinkedIn. But we put out tons of content. So, like, if you follow us, you're going to see regular videos from guests as well. And then if you want more from Purple Acorn, please go to purpleacornnetwork.com. You can see all of our shows. We've got a show for every single week. Those shows are constantly growing. We're adding shows to the network all the time. And so go to Spotify. I was going to say Spotify then, but Spotify, iTunes, and YouTube. Go check out all of our content across platforms. If you want to be a guest on the show, you want to sponsor the show, get a hold of us. We'd love to hear from you as well. And John, thank you so much for jumping in,
Thanks,
being a great
John.
guest host
Both.
again. You're a legend.
Come on. Great to be with both of you. Thank you.
Oh,
Yeah, and happy to see you as well, Danielle. Always, you're a great.
always.
Great co-host here. And for everyone who's behind the scenes as well, Alan, Evan, the whole team, all of our guests, that is it from week 45. So
Wow.
next week. I know, getting up
And
to
shout out to
52.
Paz.
The
We
Paz.
miss ya.
Shout out to Paz.
He's gonna troll me today for not thanking him. But yeah, shout out to Paz. Absolute legend. And we'll see you guys next week.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Bye guys.